It's really difficult for someone to fight for something that they don't know and love. But if they know it and they love it, like people do at Rumbling Bald here in Chimney Rock, then they're much more apt to want to protect it.
A lot of people have been working together to protect this really special area.
Right now there's still access issues for a lot of beautiful rock cliffs, and the better we are at communicating that we're interested in having a good time and that we're good for the local economy, the more that's going to be able to expand.
Climbing access to our different climbing resources is not a given. It is not something that is 100% permanent and always here to stay.
Rock climbing has taken off now.
I think climbers can have a really important role to play in protecting them.
Boulders, cliffs, all of the above.
There's still a lot to do in Hickory Nut Gorge that's never been done.
Climbers, we have this opportunity
We have
to
climbing access to about, climbers are going to find them.
for conservation.
So about 80% is close to climbing
which
or
has
private
opened
land.
up more
This is the
bouldering
basis
and
for a really
access.
deep connection.
The time to climb Rumbling Bald is now. My interest in rock climbing in Hickory Nut Gorge started in the house next door to us, which is where I grew up. And at that time, there were these huge boulders in the front yard. So I would say my first climbing experience was climbing boulders when I was this tall. The boulders were this tall. In 1975, started being a student at Warren Wilson College, and that's where I really took off climbing. That's met a lot of my climbing buddies went to Warren Wilson at the same time, so from then on it was just full out rock climbing, any chance we could get. Coming up here was interesting because nobody came up here. It was all private property. So you could go up there and not see anybody for weeks at a time. The only people I ever saw, other than folks that I went up there with, were poachers, hunters poaching deer or whatever. So it was a lot of times we would wear bright colors just to let those guys know we were there. Now, we were all trespassing, so nobody worried about somebody else saying we were there because they weren't supposed to be there either. At that time, we would go up to Rumbling Bald and climb, and we would just climb cracks. We didn't really know that we were supposed to be naming routes and keeping records of who did what. A lot of times we would find screws and even one time a piton that we don't know who brought it there. And we're talking about in the early 70s, so somebody, maybe even in the late 60s, was there with a piton. And in the old days, there could be weeks at a time when nobody was up here, just because it was hard to get to and there were other places to climb. And now, you'll go up to the Rumbling Bald parking lot, and I think there's 130 places, and right now, today, it may be full. Rock climbing has taken off now to where folks are looking for other places to climb. So now that Rumbling Bald's easy to get to, folks are looking at above the old ghost town and other places. So there's still a lot to do in Hickory Nut Gorge that's never been done.
Clothes, late night shows, boogie down at the bar, fiddle tunes and homemade booze, but it always goes too far. Shooting pool, crack a jack, take off now, and don't look so sad. Come on now, mama, ain't nothing here so bad. You got fast cars, movie stars, party on down the street with Mary Jane, good cocaine, plenty down there.
The Bald is really where I learned to rock climb, both bouldering and I learned to play skier. So it has a really special place in my heart. As a scientist, as an ecologist and naturalist, like I've been looking at plants and lichens for so long, and this place just so happens, both the Southern Appalachians, our whole region, so diverse and rich with plant and animal species, and Hickory Nut Gorge and Rumbling Bald in particular are extraordinary even within that. I'm a plant person, so I'll talk about the plants first. There is the white irisette. It's only in 2 or 3 counties in this area. And it's actually all over the boulder field, not too far from the Bart Simpson boulder, and then the kind of landing underneath the cereal buttress. Flies under the radar most of the year. It almost looks like a grass. But then when it blooms, it has these really beautiful kind of delicate white flowers, which is globally threatened. One of my favorite recent discoveries here is a new species of salamander that is only found in the Hickory Nut Gorge. So if you see these little guys, not only are they just stunningly beautiful, but they don't live anywhere else on the planet. This area is so special, both for the amazing climbing resources, but because of rare and endemic species and these incredible habitats, and a lot of it remains unprotected. So I really believe that access and conservation are really tightly linked. I think that being able to care for and understand and be passionate about the land where we climb, the rock and the surrounding life, is the way that we're going to be able to work with land managers, work with landowners, build kind of trust and cooperation that's gonna allow us to keep climbing in these areas.
Well, I was first elected mayor in 1999, and that was really the beginnings of the Nature Conservancy and other folks doing acquisition, and then of course later the state becoming involved. So I was really lucky to be able to participate in the early conversations of how the state park was developed. There was a group of us that started pushing the state really hard, and we created the Save Chimney Rock group that really we spent hundreds and hundreds of hours keeping this whole communication positive, and if we hadn't have done that, I'm not quite sure the state would have actually bought Chimney Rock.
My draw has the Carolina Climbers Coalition, CCC, on it, and everything that Chimney Rock has CH on it.
state did buy Chimney Rock. And that was a huge deal. That was a $22 million deal that was a consortium of conservation groups and state and even some private individuals putting money together so that could happen. That has opened up the Chimney Rock Park to something that it could never been again. And in hindsight, there's hardly anything I'm more proud of. There's folks like the Carolina Climbers Coalition buying pockets that the state didn't buy and other folks didn't get for access and/or places to boulder or climb. So that whole consortium has made the Hickory Nut Gorge a mecca for climbing that could have never happened otherwise. You know, if it was all still private owned, people wouldn't climb here just because it would be hard to get to.
Approximately 80% of the climbing resources within Hickory Nut Gorge are closed to climbing. If they were open, we would have access to about 1,000 more boulders and about 1,000 more climbing routes. Ghost Town, which is on Round Top Mountain, has a long history of climbing dating back to the 1970s as well. It has over 100 routes, probably 150 established routes on it already. It is closed to climbing, and it's partially private property and partially state park owned. Ghost Town is home to some of North Carolina's only 514s. It is also known for its many crack climbs. If climbers were able to spread out legally, I think it would help Rumbling Bald. It would also help Hickory Nut Gorge. It would help the communities surrounding here due to the economic impacts of increased visitation. The slowest tourist seasons is when thousands of climbers want to come to Hickory Nut Gorge. So if we had access to more climbing areas, that economic impact would only increase.
Oh, the Humbling Bald. Should we cheers to Humbling
Bald.
To Humbling Bald.
In 2017, the Outdoor Alliance did an economic impact study on rock climbing in western North Carolina. They found that rock climbers impacted local economies by $13.9 million and provided 170 full-time jobs due to open rock climbing access in different areas. We did have some success opening new climbing areas within Hickory Nut Gorge. Eagle Rock is one example, Little Bear Wallow Falls is another, and where I'm sitting right now, Chimney Rock Village Boulders is another. In 2018, we worked with both Conserving Carolina and Chimney Rock State Park to open up Eagle Rock to climbing. Eagle Rock has multi-pitch traditional climbs, it has sport climbs, it also has a bunch of boulders. And I think right now with climbing access and how climbing access is either in jeopardy or could be improved or could be expanded in all different areas, we need all hands on deck and we need a diverse crew of people who are committed to expanding that access, improving that access, and sustaining that access throughout all different climbing lands in the Carolinas. We need everybody. In 2020, we formed our first ever board position for JEDI initiatives, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Alma Solis was the first person to fill that board position, and she's fantastic to have on our board of directors.
What the CCC hopes to do and what I hope to do through my leadership is just to get more folks out there and provide equitable resources. Climbing should be made accessible for everyone, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your income status, regardless of your gender expression. Anything that makes you diverse should be welcome in the outdoors, because that's what makes our climbing community really great. One of the ways we've promoted access in the outdoors is the collaboration with Fox Mountain Guides. And the collaboration led to a scholarship opportunity for someone who identifies as part of underserved community, someone who had, for whatever reason, had limited access to the outdoors. And we're very happy that we were able to sponsor someone to get outside and climb.
Anyone is welcome to our different trail days and trail work that we put on, any of our stewardship days that we have. I'm always blown away by how many climbers show up, come out, work hard, and love it, and work together in order to maintain and create these different climbing areas.
The trail work that I did definitely helped me become more mindful of everything that goes into climbing access. And I learned a lot as well from the CCC about like the nitty-gritty of what they do to like make sure that open access is possible on the different lands where we climb, and that, you know, it's not just that part, but also building trails and then maintaining them, and then also outreach with the community, and you know, figuring out like how to engage the community in that whole process. Climbing is something that's really empowering for me, and I enjoy trail work because I feel like a badass doing it. And it's also just another way of kind of developing a connection to the lands where I recreate, and it's rewarding.
My second try time, I was panicking, and
In 2019, the Carolina Climbers Coalition volunteers documented 4,500 hours of stewardship work in our different crags. In 2020, we documented 5,800 hours of stewardship work to our different crags throughout the Carolinas and beyond. Chimney Rock Village Boulders here is a really good example of how important trail work is for climbing access. The trail work helps with erosion, it helps with the ecology of the area. It also helps with rescues because a carry-out is a lot easier on a maintained trail than it is through a bushwhack.
So another thing that makes Remlingbald amazing is this kind of cool weather phenomenon where you get a temperature inversion, so that there's this band of warm air that sits at middle elevations and kind of incubates the cliff. So it stays so much warmer. We're actually behind on leaf season here. Leaves are down in Asheville, but you come down and they're really beautiful here. It stays warmer. And it also means that you can climb here through the winter.
One of the biggest battles for a climber in the Southeast is the weather, and it's always either wet or too hot. The great thing about Rumbling Bald is that in the wintertime, the weather is very stable and the rock dries really quick. Rock at Rumbling Bald just has the most amazing features, but also the most amazing friction. You kind of bob back and forth between these different crack features that are just wonderful cracks. They're fissure cracks, so they're actually from broken rock. And then also these great little edges and face features. And the gneiss, it's Henderson gneiss is the type of rock. And it has a friction to it that's unlike anywhere else. You know, your feet will stick almost anywhere as long as it's cold enough.
So currently being part of the CCC board has been great. I am the only woman of color on that board, and while I am very proud of the work we do, I think there's still a lot of room for our community to grow, and I'm really excited to be at the forefront of it, at the beginning of it, but it's only the beginning.
One of the main takeaways I would really like to tell the public is work together. The more the climbing community works with the state park, the more the climbing community works with the local government, the better it is for everybody. So I think climbers should go out of their way when they have a great experience on Rumbling Bald, write the town, write the Chamber of Commerce, write the state park system, write the government. And that may sound silly, but people don't understand how moving that is to get a letter or an email as a public official. So, you know, when you go up to Rumbling Bald or Chimney Rock or anywhere really that you have a great time outside, remind government officials and even the Chamber of Commerce's that you're doing that and that you wouldn't be here except for those activities are available. So the more we can remind the local community that the climbing community is part of what's going on, the better it's going to be for everybody.
I think as climbers, the very best thing we can do is join our local climbing organization. Here we have the Carolina Climbers Coalition.
I think the Carolina climbing community is just one of the best communities of climbing in the nation. Our community is just fantastic at any call that we put out as the Carolina Climbers Coalition. They step up immediately and fill whatever void is needed. And that is largely why we've been able to open up so many different climbing areas and have so many successes with various land managers.
So as climbers, I think we have this really unique opportunity to know a wild place really well. We go to our local crags through all seasons. We know them year in, year out after fire or ice storms. And I think that connection is really the basis for conservation and protection. And I think that we have that opportunity to protect these places we love so much.